morning, everybody. All right, welcome. So I'll just start things off. A little background about myself, Booz Allen Hamilton, and then I'll kind of orient you to what we're going to go through in this session. So again, my name is Hemgen. I work with Booz Allen Hamilton. I oversee our functional learning team within the larger learning and development. We are headquartered out of Tysons, Virginia, and so I live and work there. Just to give you some context to Booz Allen Hamilton, if you've never heard of us before. So we are a strategy and technology consulting firm. Been doing this for well over 100 years. It's amazing to think that. And we serve clients throughout the entire federal government. We work with probably most agencies in some capacity, way, shape, or form. We have a diverse portfolio across there, as well as commercial organizations. Our major capabilities span data science, analytics, cyber, digital solutions, and engineering. Those are our core capabilities for which my team is then responsible for enabling our staff to have the skills to perform that work on behalf of their clients. At Booz Allen Hamilton, we have an employee value proposition that starts with be you, be Booz Allen, be empowered. That last E is a big E because it's my team's responsibility to empower our staff with the skills to help change their clients' world. We wake up every day thinking about that. And a little bit more story. I worked at Booz Allen some years ago, came back 2 years back, took over the functional learning organization. And when I first joined, I was thinking, wow, there's a lot happening. There's tremendous demand for our work. And I would go to bed at night, not able to sleep, thinking of all the things that we need to do. And I started to ask myself, what's keeping me awake at night? And we had a lot of inefficiencies, people duplicating work and effort. We had challenges with even finding content within our ecosystem. We certainly didn't make it easy. So as we go through this presentation, we're going to talk about the journey we've been on the past 2 years and give you a sense of the things we've done to leverage technology, tools, processes, people, to really allow us to scale and deliver the work across all those different disciplines that we speak to. So as I say that to you, last night, I was kind of processing all the conversations I listened to yesterday, and it's going to adjust my talk track a bit because I'm going to connect a lot of what we've learned yesterday to some of the experiences we have. What's really important for me in this session is hopefully, as we go through our journey, is give you I want you to learn from our lessons learned, some of our failures, things that are working, not working. So hopefully you can see yourself in that experience and bring that back to your journey. And you've probably heard that word a lot, journey. We're all on this journey together. While we've been doing it for a long time at Booz Allen Hamilton, we are still struggling, trying to figure out how the best we can be. And while I've been here listening to the sessions, I love sitting back, taking in who's doing what. I love the sidebar conversations and how long you've been a degree client, what have you learned, what are you doing, what kind of content and so forth. As we exchange these stories, that makes us so much smarter. And it's my honor and privilege to be here in front of you, industry colleagues, to share things that we are doing. As we go through this presentation, I ask to collect any question you have, either on what we're doing or what you might be doing or thinking about. Pose it here, we'll gladly talk about it. Anything we can do to enable each other, be more successful, we're all for it. And then lastly, as I was going through this last night, I have to admit, I was doing this while watching the Nats game. So I was up to, I know there's probably a lot of Dodger fans here, but I have to say I'm very excited. I feel really good. All right, so let's talk about the agenda today. So we're gonna go through how we go about defining strategy and goals with our clients. So it is really the gathering requirements that formulate then the strategy we're gonna deploy. We're gonna talk about the evolving role of the learning experience architect. What does that look like? What do they do? What are their key characteristics? How are they enabling us to deploy these solutions? Then we're going to get to the secret sauce. We're all curating learning experiences. It's the buzzword of the day, curating, but honestly, it's truly what we do. It's reflective of what is happening. So we'll talk about how we are addressing it. And all the while, I'm going to speak to how we've experimented with different things with Degreed and content partners, what's working, what's not working, and how we've gotten to where we are today. And then we're going to talk about leading and lagging indicators. How do we use analytics to show how we're moving the needle? So we've got a project going on right now. I'm gonna show you behind the scenes what that looks like, how we're using data. And it ties perfectly to the session we saw yesterday afternoon. They laid out the perfect groundwork, and I wanna share with you, then us from a client perspective, what are some of the things that we're doing. And then we'll close with a group activity, and we'll take it from there. So the key is let's start with the end in mind. What story are we telling? We all probably ask ourselves, what story are we telling our clients? What story are we telling our stakeholders internally within L&D, with our clients and their stakeholders? What is the story we tell them? We're gonna end with this. We're gonna talk about what is the story? Because when I came back 2 years ago and I sat down with the team, I asked everybody in the room, what is the story we're telling? And I got answers like, well, you know, we're telling them how many we trained, how many hours of this. It's good, it's necessary. But what's beyond that? What is the story? How are we moving the needle? How are we showing it? So we're gonna show you how we got to where we are. So let's start with how we go about defining goals and strategy. And interestingly is the timing, because our fiscal year is April 1st through March, and we're coming up on Q4. We just started this process I'm gonna walk you through as we start laying out strategy. So let's first talk about our approach to client engagement. There's no secret to this. This is probably very similar to what many of you do today when you engage with your clients internally. And I just distilled this process to a very simple framework. How do you go about identifying the business priorities? And those priorities will surround, in our world, a lot of it's building capability and capacity. Let's define those two terms, capability. Capability means we are trying to create a breadth of a workforce to deliver specifics with specific skills to execute against specific solutions. I'm sorry, I flipped it. I flipped it in my own head. Capacity. I flipped it. Go back. Capacity is the breadth. Capability is the depth. The depth is then the proficiencies. So we want to enable our teams to have the skills necessary, the workforce necessary to deliver against those priorities. Once we understand the key technologies, the key topics, we kind of have to understand what the gaps are. And we'll walk through some of the information sources we use to collect that. Once we understand the skills, we kind of have the requirements, right? And then we want to go through the curation process. So this is where we sit back as a team and say, okay, let's say the topic's artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning. Let's take a look at our content ecosystem. What do we have? What do we don't have? What about, and we look at every aspect in terms of self-paced learning, instructor-led learning, programs, individual courses, and so forth. And we take a look at what we have, and then we start to curate this experience. And we're going to show you how we go about doing that within Degreed and how we leverage multiple platforms to make that happen. And this is really key because optimizing this allows us to scale. This was really key because before we were all over the place. Everybody's chasing down, doing individual things. It was, I don't say chaos, organized chaos at best. And at the very end, we curate this experience, as I said, and we bring it all together and present it to the client. And we're going to walk you through how we go about doing that. So how do we get business intelligence in terms of requirements? It's like right now, we are collecting data across multiple sources. So industry research, what's happening in the industry. So I'll reach out, for example, to one of my business partners, which I did last week, and say, hey, Matthew, I want to get a sense of what courses are we consuming? What about your other like clients in our industry? Can you share some of that information? Of course, we perform surveys internally. I call that a bottom-up approach. What are the employees saying that they need? So we deploy surveys within regions, different markets, different accounts to get a broad perspective. The top-down approach is leadership. Leadership, we learn from them either by sitting in all-hands meetings, and they have briefings, we see their decks and presentations. What's the story they're telling? We also look at the story they're telling clients. We try to grab hold of decks or presentations that they have, and we bring it all in. We also look at historical consumption. You know, what content are they using across the platforms, and we try to assess that. We collect everything. And then we go into these think tank sessions. So we get into these rooms. Anybody love whiteboards? I'm a whiteboardaholic. If you can get me in a room that's all whiteboards, I freak out. I love it. Because that's where we solve problems. We think through and write out, all right, what are we seeing? Let's distill, synthesize the information, find themes, validate those themes, and that's going to orient our compass, set the direction for which we then have strategies which we're going to, for the next 12 months, work towards. It doesn't mean we don't calibrate or shift, but at least we have a directional heading. We validate that with the key leaders. Doesn't mean we have all the information up front. We don't have all the answers, but we have enough that we have a good gut feel. This is the direction we're heading. I want to share another source of input that we've been using in our conversations, and this is an opportunity to use artificial intelligence. I failed to mention, like, we look at all the job requisitions we have for roles. We look at the skills within those job recs to assess the demand side, right? And then in my work with Degree a year or so ago, we saw they were working with a company called Burning Glass. So we checked them out. They have this product called Labor Insight. So we subscribe to that. What it allows us to do, this is one cool report. I was able to go into Burning Glass, put in a job role title, data scientist. I said, look for all my job recs in Booz Allen Hamilton for the last 12 months. And then what it does, it scrapes every single job rec, stack ranks all the skills that it sees in our job recs. I could take that same report, compare it against the industry. I could take that same report and compare it to competitors. Since I'm in Tysons, Virginia, I'm not sure if you know, I got a new neighbor coming. It's a company called Amazon. So I said, what is Amazon asking for in skills? We're asking for the same skills. Talk about competitive workforce. So that's happening. They're bringing about 25,000 people. But we use this information to validate, do we have the right information, the right skills? And again, this is going to formulate ultimately what we develop. So let's talk about the role of the learning experience architect. So over time, I kind of refer to these folks as learning solutions architects, but it's really evolved. And it's evolved to truly creating the experience. And that means they're really curating the experience to solve skill-building problems. What does that person have? You don't come out of school as a learning experience architect. This is a job that comes through experience over time to be this kind of person. They need to understand the business of learning, meaning I really understand how to maximize investment, and I have the proper business acumen to engage with clients internally and externally. You gotta have a strategic mind. You need to be aware of technical capabilities. You don't need to be an expert, but obviously you need to be aware enough of all technical platforms, whatever it is. You know, if we're talking about virtual instructor-led learning, was it WebEx, Zoom? I'm a Zoomaholic. Understand what good learning looks like. You need to understand our LMS, degree platforms, everything that can create an experience. And the same thing with the content ecosystem. You need to be aware of all the content options we have. You need to be aware of the players externally. You gotta be on top of it. The other thing is evangelist. What does that mean? They're responsible for driving engagement and consumption that leads to capability and capacity building. If you're sitting behind your desk 5 days a week, you're not out in the field getting people engaged. And you're gonna see, we're gonna show you numbers on how we drive engagement and what's necessary to get there. You gotta get away from your desk, you've gotta be in the field. That makes you also a salesperson. Yes, I said it, sales. But we're learning professionals, Jim. Yes, you are a learning professional, but you are also responsible for driving engagement. Build and people will come. It doesn't work that way. You gotta get out there and make it happen, but here are the ways in which you could do it. So we'll talk about strategies for that too. They need to be an analyst, because we use information to inform our decisions. If you can't create a pivot table of my team, you're not on the team. It's the price of admission. Always gotta be thinking about scale. What I mean by that is, whatever I create, whatever I do, is it a one-time, one-trick pony? Can we do this again? Can my colleague, Elise, or Jason use this also to do it better? Gotta be thinking that way. And they need to know what good learning looks like. You just know it when you know it. And I'll say the last thing that's not on this screen. I feel like the latest hires I brought in, I'm really thinking about the intangibles a lot more these days. The intangibles are fit. What is your fit into the team? What energy do you have? Are you naturally curious? Because I can't teach you to be curious. I need you to be curious though. So I look for that up front. It makes a huge difference. You may not be great at these other things, but if you got curiosity, I could teach some of these things. That I can't. It's really important. Because what ultimately happens, if I've got a team of naturally curious, strategic, analytical, good learners, we can do amazing things. So let's talk about amazing things. So we deployed Degreed less than 2 years ago. Within that time, we also refreshed our content ecosystem. I got new partners. I'll speak to that. So let me give you the lay of our land. What was the current state pre to that? It was a mess. We had SharePoint. We all have that. We have our LMS. We have an older LMS. And I'm not going to, it does what it needs to do. We have internal portals, different platforms. And when I would kind of ask people, so if you need project management training, you need to get a PMP, how do you find it? It's scary, the response. Well, I got to start here, go there, go there. It's crazy. So we knew we had a learner experience problem that we had to solve for. We also knew that we had a lot of content. There was just a lot out there. How do we distill that and make it easier? So those are some of our initial challenges. But we also knew we need to scale. How can we not just improve the experience, but enable scale? So we partnered with Degreed. We launched a platform rather quickly. Our approach was this. Let's enable everybody to create pathways, create content. 6 months into it, I watched. And what I was seeing was a lot of content entering the system, but then I would search for Python, and I found like 6 Python pathways. I'm like, okay. Well, this pathway's pointing to a partner we don't use. This pathway's doing this. So good things were happening, and some lessons were being learned. And over time, we made some decisions. 2 things we decided to change. One was our approach on governance. We said we need a content taxonomy. I'm going to walk you through that here in a second, what that looks like, to be really efficient. We don't want to quell employees' abilities to leverage a platform to the fullest. We still give them the tools and ability to create pathways and plans, but its visibility is to groups or to their teams, but not the organization. If they want to author anything for the organization, they need to go through a little training first that we have to understand how to author with our governance in mind and understand tools and resources. I mean, things as simple as what graphics to use or not to use and some text descriptions. It really is creating for a more consistent experience. I had 2 really strong power users on my team. And I watched them. I said, listen, I pulled them to the side. I said, what can we do to be more efficient going forward? And I'm going to start showing you elements of decks that they built to say, listen, we need a content taxonomy. Our clients want to see, they want to learn about a technology or a skill. You see in the example here, I have SQL, simple. A topic area is like data engineering. It rolls up multiple technologies and possible skills. And then we have role-based, and a role such as a cloud architect. So if we can curate content against these areas, it's really what the client's are looking for. Now, I'll put a caveat. The far right, that role-based one, I struggle to put that one there because our roles change a lot. Like we just refreshed all the job families and job roles, of which there are many. They change a lot. Skills, they don't change as much. We're trying to change the conversation to be skills-focused. And yesterday, that was one of the themes. I'd rather be talking in skills than roles, and you'll see why. And in the past, one of our flaws was we created what we call job family learning plans. It was, if you want to be a software engineer, take this for beginner, this, and they would publish it in the LMS. 3 days later, it's outdated. Well, who's managing and maintaining that? It never got managed and maintained. And then we had outdated, old information. It was unsustainable. So I'm constantly thinking about sustainability. We got to be sustainable, whatever approach we subscribe to, because we own it. We can manage skill plans, you'll see within Degreed, against technology, skills, and topic areas. So my analogy is simple, Legos. As a little kid, roll out all the Legos, and what do? They start clicking them together, build it up. That's what we're doing. We're creating Legos, and each Lego is a skill plan. And we've curated, I'll show you the kind of content we put into each plan. They're reusable against any topic or role we could drag and drop. It's a very simple language, and every time I talk internally to the team and to clients, say, listen, we're truly building Legos. This is what we could do. Now, what goes into these Legos has been hours and hundreds of hours in understanding what that experience should look like. So let's talk about the Legos. Simple. Python. Python shows up in a number of areas. I got a role called full stack developer. I got a topic data science. I got a topic area data engineering. Python is present in all of those. So if I am a data engineer and I click the data engineering plan, I'll see Python. It's the same Python plan that the full stack developer is going to see. It's a reusable plan that we've developed and managed, and now we can just drag and drop them. So those are all the Legos. So now we truly have a content taxonomy for each area that we've defined. And we can't build for every skill or every topic. That was influenced by the priorities that we've captured. So what does a Lego look like? So if I pulled up one area called analytics and data science. We got a front page for them that has their top level skills or topics, such as artificial intelligence, data science, machine learning, deep learning, analytics, and data visualization. If I click data visualization, here's an element of a plan. We get to very specific data viz tools. Excel, Tableau, Power BI. One day, a client had reached out to us. I got a new project, we got to learn ClickView. Where do we buy ClickView training? Hold on. We went to the Excel plan, I cloned it, and then we populated it. Udemy for Business is our content provider, real simple. They had like 4 or 5 awesome courses, dragged right in there. ClickView, the company itself, has some free training from their website. We pointed to that, pulled it all together. It took about 10 minutes, here you go. And we sent them the link to the plan. That was instant curation. I'll give you a really quick example of what that process now looks like. Because once we have the plans right, that's a blueprint, and we can clone the blueprint. The blueprint itself, though, gets better every 2-3 months, because Degree comes out with new capabilities, and we think about it, we incorporate it, and we say, you know, this plan's really good, but now it could be a little bit better. And that's fine. We just start to replicate that experience as they get better. Our experience looks like this. If I click Python, we want to present personalized learning choices and options. Now, Booz Allen, it's not easy how you can get access to training, because there's 2 ways in which you can acquire training. Like, you could take a class, and we are a cost recovery L&D department, which means there's a seat charge. So if you go attend a class, let's say it's $100, you sign up in the LMS, there's an admin charge that hits your team budget, and then it offsets the cost. We have a benefit, tuition certification reimbursement benefit. The program's called FlexEd. Staff get anywhere from $50 to $10,000 a year. Your benefit is based on years of service. So if you've been with the firm for 10 years or more, you get, 7 years or more, you get $10,000. That's great. You can use that for external training with what we call FlexEd partners. And I'm going to speak to what that looks like. So that means, all right, I got Python. Most people are billable, very busy. So we serve up, the first thing is free self-paced content. We've curated that. Free self-paced learning is the first thing you see. Beneath that, if L&D has courses, you see our schedule. Beneath that, if you want to use your FlexEd benefit, we'll point you to the partners we have. They've created these co-branded portals with us, and we link you directly to the schedule. We've integrated into the experience how to leverage a FlexEd benefit. So it's a little bit of customer education. That's part of it. So we have a degree pathway just for that. If we have any major programs, we've also incorporated that into here. Like one program, we have this major initiative around data science. We have this mission to have 5,000 data scientists in 3 years. We're hiring and building them. So that massive program is incorporated into this. We've replicated that for data engineering, cyber engineering, modern software development, and cloud engineering. So that whole experience exists there. So now I have options, choices, so I can learn the way I want to learn, where I want to learn, but I also understand how it's going to be funded or paid for, if it's going to be admin or FlexEd or free. I'll stay with the FlexEd partners for a second here. Key thing here too is how we scale is through our partners. We have very few partners we work with, and we heard some examples yesterday. I think Erickson spoke to it, about how important they are. We need partners who can not bring content, but they can bring thinking. They're an extension of my team. They understand our purpose and values, how we operate, and they bring expertise and content that I don't have to build and own. Because I don't want to build and own content. I hate owning content, because when I own content, I think total cost of ownership, long-term, who pays for this and how do I manage it? Yes, I have to build and own content when it's proprietary or very specific, but Python, I can go anywhere for Python. So even my L&D courses there you see in the middle, I did not build that Python course. I've got a partner I sourced that's delivering it on my behalf. I've outsourced it completely. So they are an extension of L&D. It's an L&D course through our catalog, but it's delivered by a content partner. It allows me to scale fast. Because if somebody says next week, I need some specific course on deep learning, I'm gonna look for the best partner I've got in my portfolio who has that and onboard it into my platform. External training, as Flex said, again, we've worked with very specific partners because now they're giving us some discounted training on high volume areas. They allow us to scale. They have virtual instructor-led training. They can deliver it very well, many of them do. Classroom instruction, blended instruction. They help me scale across globally. So again, it's a key to have some really good partners to make that happen. So now my learning experience architects, those are their partners, their content partners. When they're solving problems and need more content, that's where they go. All right, so we're talking about scaling. So let's now go back to the story. What story are we telling? How do we demonstrate results for capability and capacity building? How do we make this happen? So at the beginning of our fiscal year, I sat down with our leadership team and said, listen, I love to mature our analytics capability. And we're all in the same place. We're really good at, we all get reports from our systems, Excel sheets, and I walk in, I got tons of Excel sheets from the LMS, from Udemy, from Degreed, and we could run pivot tables like crazy and show this or that. It's meaningful information to us. But what's the story still? I don't see the common thread. Like if Josh Sullivan, who leads my analytics business, he is like an uber smart, wicked smart leader in analytics. I can't just show him a pivot table and say, well, we trained 30 people. The answer is, so what? What did I get for those 30 people? So we want to get beyond that. So what we decided to do is take on a small project where I said, listen, we train a lot of data scientists. Let's put our money where our mouth is. Let's take some of these students who just graduated, they're in between projects, and say, I got a project for you. Can you help me tell a story? So I'm going to show you some of the work that they did. Now, before I get to this story, we started also talking about leading and lagging indicators. Let me describe what that means. And as I say this to you, this is not unique thinking. I stole this from the 4 Disciplines of Execution from Stephen Covey. It's a book. If you have not read it, worth a good read. The point behind the book is how organizations are great at creating strategies. It's the execution of that strategy is where many fail. And even within us, we get sucked up into what they call whirlwind. We're really busy doing stuff, but does any of that stuff move the needle? Well, how do you know if you're moving the needle? I need a leading indicator or scorecard that can show me if I pull this lever, it's going to affect an outcome, the lagging indicator. That shapes priorities, it shapes thinking if I could see that. So I'll give you some examples of what that looks like. All right, so let's start with this. So I got a team of 4 really young, green consultants, put them in a room, said, listen, I've got data from 5 systems. I got Degreed, I got Udemy, I got my LMS, which is Learn, FlexEd, which is my tuition benefit, where I can see how much money they spent, who they spent it with, what course. And we care about certifications, a really big deal within the firm, and we track that in our HRIS, which is Workday. That's the source of record. That's a whole conversation unto itself. So I got this information. Let's control what we can control. I've got pivot tables today, and I can see this or that. But I want to see what engagement really looks like. And I want to have different dimensions and views into that engagement. So we started with this. I said, let's start simple. I want to look at all these platforms individually. I want to see engagement and consumption. But then the bigger question is, what's the story we weave together? Now, L&D, we care about this stuff as a big deal. What you're seeing here is adoption, meaning I'm looking at a total population, what % of that population is using it, and I want trends over time to see how we're doing. Now, all this data is not real, exact, so Don't get too hung up on the numbers, but we do have high level of degree adoption. Udemy, we just launched, and that's starting to happen. We care about how many people are enrolled in courses, and we care about the hours. I'm not as hung up on completions, unless it's a compliance need. That's a whole different discussion, too. We care about our own internal courses that's happening through Learn. We track the volume, what Flex said, like I said, we care. We want to see engagement. What does it look like? But not just across the firm. I've got these slicers up top. I can see what does it look like in Norfolk? What does it look like in Dallas? What does it look like for my aerospace account? What does it look like for the Navy military account? I could slice it a variety of ways. Now stakeholders can get these insights too. But by the way, so let me go back a second. How is this happening? So when we looked at all the data, they looked at the quality of the data. Most of it was pretty good from the systems. My Flex set was probably the worst. There was some free-form text, data wrangling, and engineering that we had to do there. The tool, we thought about what tools do we use. I will tell you, my L&D team, we have 2 analysts. And they're really good, but they're good at, hey, I need a report on how many people have taken or used this. I'll get the report. Hey, I need a report on this. But I'm not getting any insights. I'm not getting truly analytics. They're reactionary because 50 people are asking them for reports. They're good at doing that. That's okay. But that's unscalable. So this little pet project of 4 people, 5 people in total in the end, started this effort. And then we talked about tools. Our team uses Tableau internally, at least they do. I don't have a license to Tableau. I got Tableau Reader. That doesn't help me a whole lot. So we are an Office 365 company. And we started thinking about Power BI. So we studied it. One person on my team was naturally curious. So he started putting stuff into Power BI and said, listen, I took a degree report and this is what we could do. That looks cool. So we shared it with this team. This looks like a way to go potentially. And then we said, I told the team, you guys decide what's the tool that can render the best views. I'm not the expert, you are. Give us guidance. They came back and said, Power BI is your tool. I'm like, great, it's free, have access to it. I said, but I got to create the capability in-house. Once this is done, I need a Power BI expert. We'll talk to that, because this is doable. If you've got a Power BI subject matter expert, them to create this isn't too hard. These spreadsheets are pretty straightforward. It's telling the story at the very end. Takes some more critical thinking. All right, so this slide, I got 2 stories to tell. I was thinking about it last night based on everything we learned yesterday, and I want you to learn from some of our experiences here. That'll be helpful. But something happened last night. I'm going back and forth. I think we're losing 3-1 still, so I was more focused on this. And then when it was 3-3, I kind of turned that way, talking the baseball game. But something caught my eye. I took a screenshot just for the sake of the presentation. But then I looked and I said, wait a second. I filtered for a Norfolk cluster. That's Norfolk, Virginia. And I'm looking at the numbers. If you look at the orange, we color-coded. These are skill plans, by the way. I'm going to explain what you're looking at. So we use a degree file that allows us to see how many people are following skill plans. That means engagement. I want to send me how many people have clicked follow for a plan, which I've showed you before. If people are following plans, that means that's going to lead to consumption of content in those plans, be it my self-paced e-learning, be it my L&D courses, or be it through my FlexEd partners. We're driving engagement that leads to consumption, that leads to capacity building, that could even lead to certifications if they're relevant. So you follow that train of thought. So if we start with driving engagement to plans and followers, we want to see how we're doing. I'm going to give you 2 examples. But first, when I looked at orange numbers, like this is Norfolk, and it's cyber. How the heck are they on the bottom? I'm like, the main priority of the Navy is our major client there. Let me tell you, the biggest thing we're doing is cyber. I'm like, how the heck is it so low? Something's not right here. So this is how the conversation goes. I have an insight. So if I go back to the office, I'm going to call Jason and say, Jason, he manages a cyber curriculum portfolio. What's happening here? Or what's not happening in Norfolk? Now, Jason might say, I guess I'm going to Norfolk next week, right? And that's not what he should say. That's going to be his reaction. What Jason should say, wait a minute, Jim, let me look at the data a little bit further. Peel away this onion. And we saw this yesterday. What you see first may not hold true. What I see is not a whole lot of engagement at the moment in this degree plan in Norfolk. But I know cyber training's happening. So I clicked, I don't have it here, I clicked last night, FlexEd. And I filtered for Norfolk, and I'm seeing a lot of people spending their training benefit in Norfolk. All right, training's happening. That's good. They're using my program. If I peeled away the onion further, with this report, I could see who they were spending money with and on what courses. It was obvious stuff, like Security Plus, Certified Ethical Hacker. But there were two companies they were spending money with. One is a partner of ours. No, sorry, I take it back. One was not a, two of them were not partners of ours. And when I looked at the companies, one, they were spending like $2,800 on a Security Plus course, which I can get for like $1,500. I'm like, wait a second, they're overspending. So they're going to some local company on their own. They guess they have a relationship, but they don't care. They just, whatever, I got a class, I'm spending it. And then there was another company I didn't know, was local to them. And I could tell from the spend pattern that it was just onesies and twosies. I'm like, well, that's an insight. Maybe I should work with this company to help my Norfolk client because they're there and make them to be a good FlexEd partner. That requires conversations and a business relationship. This other one, we're overspending. I said, Jason should say, Jim, cyber training's happening, but I can help add value to that office. I'm gonna help orient them to partners we have relationships with so they can spend less money. And the other thing he should do too is I went to my Udemy tab to see what consumption was happening. Some was happening, but not enough. I'm like, you know, Pete, it's brand new. They still don't know it's there. What if they went for free training first before they even had to spend their benefit? So now he has insights. We now have insights we can use to have a very different conversation with our client in Norfolk. Yes, Jason, you're going to Norfolk, but you have information to share that's gonna shape activity with that client. Now, what we're gonna do is drive engagement. He has the best certification plans in Degreed that gives you everything you need to know. Free, partners, and internal courses they can take advantage of. Get them exposed to that experience, and that will help shape it. And we might add a new partner because we've seen that they're working with a local training company. That's probably worth it. Does that make sense? So after looking at that, so the story I wanted to lead with, and this is gonna allow me to tell a story about engagement. So we look at this as a leading indicator. This is a leading indicator that helps drive consumption toward our content. Our team this is the scoreboard. And we as a team look at this and say, how are we doing in our priority skills? How's data science looking? How's deep learning looking? How is Security Plus looking, let's say? How are those plans growing over time? That's the leading indicator. Now, to drive people to engagement, that requires marketing and communications. When I first joined the team, everybody within the team owned that effort. And they had all their own ways. Let me tell you, like, we struggle like everybody else. You know, email, nobody reads them. You know, we have Yammer as a social platform. Some do, some don't. We have clients our staff work at client sites away. Some could be in SCIFs. They're hard to reach. So how do we reach the unreachable? So we got to think smart about Marcom. But everybody was doing it. They all did it their own way, highly ineffective. But there was one girl on the team who did it well. She was naturally curious, and she, for whatever reason, was good at it. I said, Eritrea, let's test something out. I had a client in the digital solutions business who said, I need to create an experience around UX. We created a skill plan on UX, and we had to drive activity towards it. And it looked like what we just showed. We brought all this content together. And there's a story behind the story, because this client who asked for it never calls L&D. He always does things on his own. He's one of those guys, he goes rogue, I don't need you. And when I engage with him, when I look at clients, I think about where are they in the sentiment camp? Are they positive, neutral, or negative? He is clearly negative. Nothing wrong with it, he is very hard driven, does a good job what he does. He thinks he could do it faster and cheaper than partnering with us. So that's fine. But when he reached out, I'm like, opportunity to win him over. So we created this plan. I said, Eritrea, I want you to experiment with how do we think about different ways in which we can drive engagement. And we have a go-to-market plan. We look at all the channels. Channels are newsletters. Channels are social groups, such as Yammer and Slack. We'll think about activities we can conduct. Now, with all the activities, what I want you to do, if you haven't done this before within Degreed, is leverage the traceable link. I said, let's get smart on what channels and activities drive engagement. So what I mean by that is, she created a traceable link to the UX plan for the Yammer group. So when she posted to Yammer, hey, everybody, check this out, she used a traceable link, and it said Yammer post. We got a mention in the For the Love of Digital newsletter. Hey, check out this UX experience. We created a traceable link for the Love of Digital newsletter. I said, at the end of the month, I want you to come back Tell the team what you observed, what insights you got from this. So at the end of the month, well, they also did another new activity. Anybody who ever took an L&D course on UX or anything in that spectrum, they sent them an email saying, hey, follow-on learning you should consider, click this link and go to the new UX plan in Degreed. And we're not marketing Degreed, we're marketing relevant content to targeted users. Think about that, because Degreed's the enabler. Okay, it's technology, enables the experience. At the end of the month, the team, we got together, she says, all right, look at this. I create 10 traceable links through different channels. 4 of them rocked it. 6 of them did nothing. Why? Our L&D website stunk. It got nothing. But there were very targeted ones we used were highly effective. Like, now we just got smarter. Now we know where to put energy for certain things. It's like Google Web Analytics when you're trying to track what's driving activity and results. So she got smarter. That's right. Now that you got smarter, here's what we're going to do. You own this. You are now a shared resource to the team. I want you to support our Marcom campaigns for everything. So when Jason goes to Neurofolk, Eritrea, partner with Jason. Help him drive engagement. I got a call from Dayton the other day. They're starting a brand new digital solutions office, and they need a lot of help with Marcom and driving training around cloud, agile, and DevOps. I'm Eritrea. We're going to do a Dayton focus market plan. But she's created a blueprint that we reuse over time. That's created efficiencies and allows us to scale. Now, I said, Degreed, how do you know you're successful? Look right up here. If those numbers are moving to the right against the priority areas, if I filter this for Dayton and Norfolk, we see changes to the right, you're doing an awesome job. Home run. And then when she applies, if she wants to be considered for promotion, she's got results. Actionable results she can speak to, outcomes. It's better than saying, I did these 10 things, which she said to me last year. But what did those 10 things do? Now, say you did this. I got results. Changes the conversation. All right, the last part, and we'll go to the activity shortly. So this is where, to me, this is like where we're trying to get to in Nirvana. How do we weave the story together? So this team I'm working with, they said, how do we bring it all together? And then I could sit with a Josh Sullivan and say, we're building capability and capacity around artificial intelligence because you asked us to. Remember that last April? Let's talk about results. So we said, how do we weave this together? AI. AI is deep learning, machine learning, data science, let's just say. How can we tag content in all our systems you see up there and then show where that is happening? So now what we've done is this. We're experimenting with creating a tagging system where if I click any one of those topics, certification, there's a whole lot of IA certifications. If I just do, let's say, FlexEd, we're searching FlexEd for all AI-related content, and we're tagging it as AI. And now I can show where consumption is happening. So rather than saying we train 10 people, we're showing we're building capacity on AI. And I could filter this by account, geography, by level, which is tenure, and show those results. The secret to this is us trying to figure out how do we actually do the tagging. And we're processing as we go through it. But we think we have it to a point where it's not too hard in Power BI where we can say, hey, listen, we're going to put a tag, and here are my tags. I might have cloud, and when I pull up cloud, Power BI gives me a capability then to further search for AWS or Azure, and I can drill down. If I pull up certifications, I can see every AWS certified professional, this is Mid-Atlantic, where they are, and I can drill down further and get greater details to what office and where they are and who they are and what certifications they have. But this is the all-up view that a strategic leader wants to see. Hey, I got a new project, new client that's happening, let's say in Dayton, but there aren't any circles there, all right? We got a gap. How do we go about closing that? So we're gonna go target Dayton and move the needle. Where are you today, and where can we go forward? I wanna have this in the back pocket when we sit with them and start strategy planning to show what they have today, ask what their goals are, and then we'll put up goalposts, and we will be held accountable to those goalposts. So from an analytical standpoint, this is just us using information we have to paint a picture. I'll talk about what we don't have. We're still struggling on the skills conversation, and I'll get to that in a second. This ties back to what we started with. When we're capturing requirements, our requirements will be AI is a go-to bet. All right, where, how many, when. We curate the experience to make it happen, And then we put stakes in the sand and saying, this is what we're going for. And then we have to drive engagement, which will lead to the consumption and to certification if it exists. And in between all that is curation of the experiences, having the right content in place to enable all of it. So it's the content, the platform, and I said, and then the hard work is the Marcom, and then the analytics, weave it all together, tells the story. So this is kind of where we are now. We've added now a filter called category, where I can click cloud, I can click leadership, I can click a variety of topics. And this is, the bigger discussions are, what's that taxonomy look like? What is manageable? How deep do we go? How high level do we go? We're trying to figure it out. Yesterday's conversation around skills excited me. I'd love to be able to say, skill. What is my demand here? What is my supply? What does that look like? Layer that. Where's my gaps? That's truly nirvana. That's the journey that we aspire to get to. Are we there? No. Skills conversation within our ranks is, we have so many people interested in understanding skills, what we have, what we don't have. There's so many conversations, it's challenging, but we hope to figure that out at some point. So I want to pause here for questions, because I just gave a lot of information. So I wanted to give you this journey, see, yeah.
Once you have the information all pulled together, how do you have the conversation with executives? What does that look like? Are you using learning councils? Are you going straight to the executive committee?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it's a little bit of both, depending on the client. So my cyber has an advisory council. We meet bi-weekly. So they represent the voice of all the leaders. In other instances, we don't. We actually kind of go direct. And then it could be multiple leaders in which we can have very top-level partner. If we have access, we deal with that individual. But then they will probably delegate talent to a specific principal, and he or she who owns that will be our stakeholder. We'll interface with that individual. And when we interface with that individual, this is the information we hope then to share. It's like, listen, we understand your goals. Once we have that, these are the views we wish to demonstrate to show how we're moving the needle. And again, as I say this to you, it's happening real time. Pre this, it was more, like I said, conventional. I show up with spreadsheets to show what we've done in the past, what we hope to do going forward. As I say this, what you just brought up is key. It's stakeholder management. We need to be able to manage our expectations, and we're trying to mature those conversations, and that's what this is what we're hoping to use to change it a bit. And they don't know what they don't know. Like we walk up and say we train all this, and they say, yes, that's great, but I feel like it's not that insightful. They're saying, yes, we're doing good, pat on the back, but we want to be more insightful. And so it's on us, and we're trying to take control of that with them.
First of all, I'd like to make a comment. You did an amazing job. I learned and enjoyed your presentation.
Thank you.
So I got very clear understanding about the leading indicator. Can you please clarify what would you do in your company more in the lagging indicator in terms of linkage to the business results?
Yeah, so this is one dimension I'm giving you. I should clarify this. This dimension is building capacity based on consumption or certification. Now, business results, there's other dimensions in which we can show results, and I'll give you somewhat of an easy example. Let's say engagement or attrition. So, if I look at, let's just say cloud. If I want to take a sample of the population that have consumed our cloud content, and I don't care how they got there, but I have their information. Now, once a year, we do an employee survey. Everybody has to take and ask a variety of questions around engagement and what you think of leadership, and it's taken very seriously. The output of that survey shows engagement, it shows your commitment to the firm and all these things. But what I will do then is this. I'll take that survey results once it's done. I'll take the population, those here who took the training, I'll compare their results to the general results. And we've done this before, and you'll see their numbers in terms of engagement and commitment generally higher. That's the hypothesis. The other thing I'll look at is attrition. What does the attrition look like for those gone through this compared to the general population? So you want to show results, how we either directly or indirectly affecting. So that's another area of business impact I haven't spoken to, but hopefully gets at what you're trying to get at. And I don't want to dismiss the fact that we do look at, when I have a controlled population, like that data science program, we've trained like 1,200 people. We do look at level 1 data, we look at level 2, learning improvement. We do look at skills application. We have assessments and instruments. We look at all of that, but honestly, it's really important to us in L&D. I share it with the clients, but you know what they really want to know? Here's the other metrics they care about. Hey, can you reduce time to billability with these new hires? I care about that. If it's 38 days today, can you get it to 22? Because you've given them skills to be more marketable. The other thing is, if I could hire somebody that's cleared, I'll make this up, at $60,000, and you can give them the added skills to work in cloud engineering, and I can build them out and have higher margin. I don't have to buy somebody for 150, it's too expensive. So those are skills, those are results my clients really care about. In terms of level 1 satisfaction, they don't care. I could give them the information, yeah, I like it, yeah, whatever. They just want to know true business impact. Questions?
I wanted to see how do you work with folks in people analytics who, like, do you have a clear relationship between like the data that you're gathering that's more learning oriented with data like people either leaving the company or satisfaction at their job? Is that data being fed into your systems, or is there, it's a challenge at our organization where it can be very private information, and so getting that granular data is a challenge. So
yeah, so we have a people analytics team. I should speak of that. So they capture a lot of that information, these surveys and information they capture too. So let's think about it. Many organizations have an internal analytics team, and they serve, let's say, the broader HR, as we do too. And they do a great job at forecasting demand for jobs and requirements. They're really, really good at that. But in terms of what our needs within L&D, I'm not able to gain access to them to get this kind of information. So I feel like we kind of have to create this capability within our ranks. I'm not sure if this is answering your question, but so we're kind of taking ownership to this. I've been talking to a lot of companies, and I've been asking, how are you guys tackling this? State Farm impressed me. They were doing something really cool. They're all in. Like, they're hiring 5, 6, 7 people to create this internally within L&D, partnering with our larger people analytics team. It's really a maturing area. It's us within L&D getting past spreadsheets to really becoming more insightful is the ultimate goal, but you have to invest in that capability. You can't expect every learning professional to be an analyst to perform this capability. Honestly, if you could just secure, somebody has expertise in Tableau or Power BI, some tool like that, either as a contractor or internal, they can get you to this place. You just need to know what the end looks like, and if you can give them the data and the information, you can create that capability. Questions?
Did you really create a couple of thousand data scientists?
Well, yeah, we're on the mission. So we've trained 1,200 since this program started 2 years ago, and we've hired on like 700. So that's where we're at now. And bear in mind, it's when you say trained data scientists, we have this, it's a 110-hour program that they've gone through. It's heavily invested in. It's data science fundamentals, or it's data science analytics and visualization fundamentals. So it's the beginning of their journey, but they're definitely being exposed to all things data science. And then we have a learning continuum within the degree plans that we stood up for them to get their advanced skills. So the answer is yes, we're still doing it. Yeah, it's a big to-do. This is a rare thing where a leader says, I want 5,000 to build capacity, and we're like, holy crap, how's that happening? I'm not there, I have nothing. So we started with, again, we brought in partners and resources and tools to make that happen. But the beautiful thing is, once we got that right, like, all right, now we're replicating that for 4 other major topics. And that's being scalable. And I have one person in charge. Your job is this: to take every best practice from this program and scale it across the other 4 and have operational excellence, make that happen. Question?
Yeah, along those lines, can you walk through a little bit what your learner experience architects are doing to get from that idea or the topic, data science in this case, through to the implementation of it? What are some of those best practices? Who are they working with?
When we talk, as we design the experience and degree, you're saying, or?
Pardon?
Can you restate the question again?
What are your learner experience architects doing to get from the idea of something like, hey, we need to train 5,000 people in data science, to implementing that program?
Okay, sure. So if they get a demand signal to build something, let's say it's an area of data science, So we're not experts in the topic, obviously, right? So we engage with key subject matter experts, like anybody else, to help inform. But what I find is this. When I go to the subject matter experts, if I go with a blank canvas and say, hey, let's help shape the content experience, their lens is limited. They only know from their past experiences about content. So what I ask my architects to do is walk in with a straw man, shape the learning plan. Oh, crud, my time is up. Shape the learning plan. It got me, I knew it would. Give them a view to react to, right? We know enough to be dangerous. So once we engage with them, we say, okay, let's talk about deep learning, let's talk about machine learning, let's talk about different types of content, the audience, understanding them, how they best consume it, and then let's shape that on paper. And once we shape it on paper, it becomes then requirements. And one thing I failed to mention is when we build it in Degreed, I had 2 people who are really good at Degreed. I said, that's your job now. You're actually going to build it. Our architects architect it as a requirement on paper. I got these 2, they could do it in Degreed like that. It might take some other people a day or 2. They're so good at it. So we've created expertise. So you heard me say marketing expertise is a shared resource. We've also created, I got learning experience designers. It's a new role. I hate to say it, but my instructional designers, I still need it, but that fluctuates that need. So I buy that need. My learning experience designers, that need's grown. So that role has morphed. I now have 1, I'm gonna soon be 2. And that means they shape this, but to your question, the solutions architects frames that in conjunction with the subject matter experts and then creates that. And then they build that experience out in Degree. So it's a combination. All right, I'm at the end of my time, but I have one more question. Go ahead, shoot.
Yes, sir. Earlier you mentioned certifications and how certifications are tracked through Workday, which is your HRS. Can you share a little bit about how the connection between Degreed, where I'm thinking that the certification actually occurs, the learning, and how it's tracked in Workday? Is there a connection?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's no systems connection at this point in time. We don't have that in place. So it is a self-reporting mechanism. So when I go to Degreed, I'll pick an easy one, PMP. If I go to the Project Manager Professional Plan, I'll see all my learning choices, be it self-paced or through partners or our internal classes. They are told at the end of that, once they've achieved their certification, they have to self-report, go into Workday to their personal profile, enter I got PMP on this date and when it expires. Self-reporting itself is a challenge. Do they all do it? No. Then for those who aren't doing it, I'm missing important information. How do I close that? We could talk about that all day, how to solve for it. But I don't have a silver bullet. So to your answer, it's not connected. It's really just part of the workflow. All right, one last question until they kick me off. Am I getting kicked off? All right. One last question. Can I do one more? All right, one more question. I think we hit the end. All right, well, listen, so thank you, everybody. I want to say this one last thing before you go. The most important thing is this. Hopefully, you gained something from this session. I will say, at any point in time, if you want to follow up with me with questions, find me on LinkedIn. I encourage follow-on conversations. The best thing you could do at these conferences is find other people that have similar challenges and make an effort to network and collaborate with them afterwards, because we will learn so much. So I'm going to put myself out there as well. I'd be glad to share what we are doing, and I would love to hear what you guys are doing. So thank you for your time.